Are you zooming this?
All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Henry Decatur Wellness Center. Today we have a special feature for you today. We have some beautiful people here going to be doing a teaching kitchen. My name is Josh Christ. I'm the Director of Food Nutrition. To my right is Allison Tormia. She's our Clinical Nutrition Manager. Chef Greg Wright is our Executive Chef. And Chef Ryan Etheridge is our Regional Executive Chef. All right, we have a treat for you guys today. I'm going to turn it over to them because they are the experts here, and I will let them take it away. So.
Yeah, so thank you all for joining. We thought we would do a little something special. This is our, like Josh said, our version of a teaching kitchen. We're going to teach you a little bit about how to make a nice balanced salad. It's a freekeh salad with kale, Brussels sprouts, and pomegranate seeds. So very timely. February is Heart Month, American Heart Month, and so there's a lot of benefits from the salad we're going to be making today that are helpful with heart prevention. So Chef's going to talk a little bit about some of the items that are in our recipe. I'm going to talk a little bit about the nutrition that's in our recipe, and then you guys will get to have some hands-on with the making of the salad and taste testing as well. So lots of good stuff.
Yeah, so freekeh is the main ingredient in this, and it's an ancient grain. Really, it's starting to come back into prevalence now, and it's they harvest the wheat when it's still green, and then it's like rice. They usually dry roast it, and then you cook it like quinoa or farro or any of those kind of grains. But I don't know if you could smell it when we were cooking it earlier. It has a great aroma to it. Chef was talking about how it reminded him a little bit of fennel. But the whole idea of this is just to show you a lot of different options that you have for your salad. We did this one with chicken, but if you wanted to go more vegetarian, you could use chickpeas or tofu or something like that just to break it up. Also, the greens that we're using are a little different than just your normal spring mix or spinach or romaine. Brussels sprouts, which I think are great. The whole thing about Brussels sprout in a salad, you got to slice it thin. So I'm going to demonstrate that before we get into making the salad. Also, we're going to teach you how to make a vinaigrette. We're going to kind of base this one just for this salad, but we're going to talk about the different variations that you can do with really just oil, lemon juice, or vinegar. And mustard is kind of the key ingredient in this because it's the emulsifier. And want to just say, when I was younger, my mom always used to try and introduce new foods to us. She would generally do that. We were a big salad eating family through salads. So, beets, craisins, different things that we didn't normally get with them. She would always start trying to introduce that. So it's really about, eating a rainbow, and just, opening up your options, because we get so tired of eating the same thing all the time. It's very important to continue to add new items to your that you can tolerate, as much fiber as you can, as much vitamins as you can.
Has anyone heard of freekeh before today? I kind of figured. Oh, maybe one. Okay, so out of the entire room, maybe one person has. Have you guys heard of quinoa? I'm sure that was the big craze a few years ago. So, freekeh has a little bit more protein than quinoa. Freekeh has more of the fiber than quinoa does too. So, if you're really trying to introduce more fiber into your diet and, taste testing this today, you'll kind of see if it's something your palate enjoys. Maybe start trying a little bit of something new in your home dishes at home. So
She had no freekeh in her. Where do you buy it?
great question.
It is a good question because, I was trying to get it from my local distributor, and I went to Whole Foods. And I couldn't find it. Ponce City Market, the Ponce Whole Foods may have it, but Amazon had it. That's where I got it. So it wasn't very expensive, and it comes in a pound, so you can just cook a little bit at a time. And what's really interesting is that, you think about rice, you take a cup of rice and maybe a cup and a half of some stock or water to cook it with. It's 5 to 1 with freekeh. So it really needs a lot of water to actually absorb a lot. Because it really looked like brown rice. I shouldn't say it, but next time we'll do that. So, we also added pomegranate seeds to this. You know, that's not something you see all the time. I was actually trying to find a pomegranate the last couple of days, but you know, it's more of a Christmas thing. But you can buy the seeds. I've seen them in Whole Foods. They come in a little small container if you do want to do it. Maybe next year around Christmas time, we'll have something themed on some Christmas fruits and stuff. I'll show you actually how to cut a pomegranate. But there's a special way to do it without having all the
Do you want to take a look?
Yeah, so we're gonna make the vinaigrette first. So we've given a couple mason jars, so we're gonna use the small mason jar first. Okay. The secret to a vinaigrette is that you want your ratio of acid, being either vinegar or lemon juice or lime juice, to oil should be about 1 to 4. That'll give you, enough oil to coat and give it some body, but also enough acid to count it. Because obviously the oil doesn't have much flavor to it. So what we're going to do first, open up your mason jar. There's a little lid on that too. Let's go ahead and put the mustard in first. Do you have a spoon there? So you might want to go ahead and open that. And we probably only need about half as much that's in there.
Depending on your preference, the best part about this is you're making this for yourself. You know, if it's not something you typically enjoy is the Dijon mustard, you can put a little less. So
Yeah.
you get to control what you're putting into your vinaigrette. So.
If you wanted to use Creole mustard, if you wanted to use yellow mustard. The main reason for this, the mustard is known as French salt. So they use it in place of salt in a lot of different places, especially like when they cook roast, that sort of thing. They'll coat it with Dijon mustard. You don't really need to add salt because there's a lot of salt in there. We did add a little bit of salt into our ingredients here. So we've got cumin. Chef, you put this together.
Yes, we've got a little kosher salt, a little bit of cumin, a little bit of black pepper, a little bit chili powder, and you've got some fresh dill.
Oregano, fresh
Fresh
oregano.
oregano.
Yeah, you can probably smell that.
Yeah.
Smell the dill and the oregano.
Very aromatic.
This salad is a bit of a Greek salad, even though Frika is more Middle
What's it in
Eastern.
all of our salad?
I guess being on the Mediterranean. Work it over there. All right, so let's go ahead and pour in. We have a mixture of both lemon juice and oil.
All of it? All of it?
All of it.
Yep, all of it. You're not gonna need all of it for your salad. But again, this is something that if you keep refrigerated, it will last for, a couple months. But again, you can make your own just following the same proportions that we talked about. So if you look on the recipe that we gave you, it has, this is really for 4 people. But it kind of gives you the basic recipe. Let's say you wanted to do a lemon rosemary, leave out some of the dry ingredients, just add back in fresh chopped rosemary. Let's do the same thing. And what you'll notice as we shake this, we're going to shake it now and make sure it's on there.
Well, we're supposed to put the herbs in?
Yes,
ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What you'll notice is that it pretty much stays together. Anybody know what emulsification is?
Yes.
So, an emulsification is when you're taking ingredients and having them combine and stay in a sort of homogenized state. So when you buy just regular vinaigrette at the store, it's always separated. Right? So there's probably no mustard in there. But if we add the mustard to this, it holds it together. Yeah. So again, there's different options. If you wanted to do a sherry vinaigrette, buy some sherry vinegar at the store. Same thing, 1 to 4. If you like the flavor, we used a real neutral oil with this. It's canola oil. But if you like olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, same thing.
And the type of olive oil or oil that you choose may add different flavors, so you can kind of follow those similar guidelines as what the recipe here calls for. Same portions, and make a different vinaigrette of your choice depending on the flavor preferences that you choose. by choosing those different things and making our own vinaigrettes, we really get to control a lot of what's going into your meal. So we can control the sodium, we get to control the calories by making it ourselves, and some of those extra ingredients that are added to preserve those vinaigrettes that you buy in the store. We're just making it all fresh, and you can see how pretty simple it is. Yeah.
There's a canola versus olive oil debate at our house, which is
Mm.
healthier.
So, you know, both are great options. Olive oil is gonna have a little bit of a different taste.
Flavor.
Yeah, but both can be certainly okay for her health. There's, yeah, especially the portion sizes that you use, there's no reason to worry about canola oil.
Also too, depending on what you're doing with it, olive oil has a little bit of a higher smoke point. So if you're cooking with it, like with a hot pan, you don't want to smoke the kitchen up, olive oil is always a better choice. Canola has kind of a lower smoke point, so it'll burn a little sooner.
I think my husband will use that.
My wife would agree with you.
You know, this is really about this salad today, but I do want to say, we're going to open it up to questions. If you think of something else, and it can be anything that's nutrition or food related. We have to read till 11 o'clock, so.
Where do you stand on safflower oil?
Safflower oil? I mean, I never buy it. I know some people like it. I haven't heard really anything bad about safflower oil.
I don't know of any research claiming anything
Yeah.
harmful with safflower, do you guys?
Yeah. If you're really looking for a really healthy oil, I would suggest like avocado oil or grapeseed oil. That's
Can you cook?
walnut oil
Yeah,
also.
yeah, anything that's coming from a nut or seed is
Yeah.
gonna be great.
The one thing about walnut oil especially is that it'll go rancid quickly. So it's not something you can keep it in the refrigerator. Same with like sesame oil, you know, it can go rancid, so. You'll know.
You will definitely know when
You'll
you
open it up and you'll be able to tell.
It'll run you out of the kitchen.
Okay, so again, we talked about Brussels sprouts a little bit, and I know it's a big food that we have at Christmas time and everything else, and generally, you have to spend hours cleaning them and cutting them into quarters and that sort of thing. So what we're going to do today is what's called a chiffonade cut. And it's good unless, I mean, I know some people probably have a mandolin. They're a little dangerous, you know. I've cut myself a few times on them.
Use the guard.
Yeah, use the guard. And when in doubt, you know, I do recommend cut gloves. They do work, you
Yeah.
know. I bought one for my wife because every other position I've ever held, we really didn't have a requirement for this, but I work for Morrison and we do work for Emory. But it's a requirement in our kitchen, so everyone has to wear one of these on their left hand when they're cutting. So it just keeps accidents down, because the biggest accident in the kitchen is cutting yourself. And most of the time it's because your knife is dull. Believe me. And most of the time it's with onions. Because they're slippery. So I'm gonna demonstrate, I'm gonna move this out of the way a little bit. Just the best way to cut. Again, I have a very sharp knife, and that's the key. You know, get a knife that you're comfortable with. You know, this is a chef knife, but it's only about 6 inches. You know, you see most chef's knives are about 10 or 12 inches. If you're more comfortable with a knife of this size, which I use for vegetables, get something this size. But make sure it's sharp. That's the whole key. You know, I have a guard. Keep it in the drawer that way. That way it doesn't get banged up. You don't have a chance of cutting yourself when you're, you know, grabbing something. So I'm gonna put my cut glove on.
Where would you find one of those gloves?
You can buy them on Amazon. Yeah. They come in different sizes.
Probably
This-
could find it if you are in the grocery store, you know, where they have the aisle full of knives and equipment, kitchen equipment, I bet there's something there too.
Yeah.
And they may have some at the
That's a
DeKalb
brand
Farmers Market, because they have a little
Yeah,
section,
that's
and
great
they have
section.
things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the brand name. We actually have chainmail gloves that we use when you're using the slicer. The slicers are probably one of the most dangerous equipment in the kitchen. So what I'm gonna do, so the best way to do this, and you know, I know a lot of you have probably peeled a lot of Brussels sprouts, but it's best to take off that first 1/4 inch at the end. And that way it's gonna be a lot easier for me to peel off any bad leaves. And now we're to the core of it. takes a long time if you're just trying to peel them off with that stem still on there. And there's also a reason why I'm doing that, cutting it that way, is that it's gonna give me a flat surface to be able to cut. So whenever you're cutting vegetables, you wanna build a flat surface that gives you something that you're not gonna be wobbling on. So if I try to cut it this way, you know, it's wobbly, it's not steady, okay? So we're gonna stand it like that, and I'm gonna just cut it in half. And now I have two flat surfaces. So again, safety is of the utmost whenever you're using a very sharp knife. So now the key thing to do, and I'm gonna do this like I didn't have a cut glove on, but keep my fingers out of the way, keep the tip of the knife down, and then I'm gonna let the knife do the work. And I'm just gonna shave it, just like this. Because it's gonna be hard to eat a Brussels sprout that is quartered. So now it's starting to get to the end, so what I do is I roll it over. Just cut it from this side, just kind of keep cutting. And then one more time. And again, the whole time, the vegetable's been secured. Got my glove. But you see, so now it's gonna be easy to eat. Yeah, we can eat it raw and not be real chewy. Okay? Anybody have any questions about that?
No? You're doing great.
Okay, all right, so now we're gonna build the salad. So we do have a mason jar here. If you don't feel comfortable about putting the ingredients in here, because we're gonna put everything in there, we're gonna put our vinegar in and we're gonna shake it again. Make sure that everything's. Again, mason jars are really cool if you're having a party. These little ones, again, you can have a little salad in here. You know, just make them up a day ahead of time, keep them in the refrigerator, pull them out, and put the dressing on them right before, instead of having a big salad for everybody. Nice to keep everything, put some little puddings in here too. So, I'm not gonna make you guys do something that, but if you can take your spoon or your fork, just go ahead and slowly start adding. So on the recipe, it calls for kale, and again, you can cut that into thin strips, just like I did. But I use baby kale, which I think is a great alternative. But with kale, you got this tough stem in the middle.
Does anyone have any questions about what's in their salad bowl?
Yeah.
No?
I didn't know you could put Brussels sprouts raw, we usually boil them or something.
I have,
Boil 'em.
yeah, or roast them, that's my favorite.
Oh, I like them.
I do have another story about that, when I did, my chef test here. So, I used to be at the Omni Hotel downtown for 13 years. After the pandemic, we wanted to have a different opportunity. So I was interviewed to do the job over, the DOU, which is the Decatur Operating Unit. So, they sort of gave me a mystery card with a bunch of ingredients, and I got to put whatever I wanted. Brussels sprouts was one of the ingredients on there, so I made a Brussels sprout salad. And, the regional chef that actually did the chef test, he looked at me, what's that? I told him Brussels sprouts, because I had never seen that before.
You also use Brussels sprouts as a slaw base if you're gonna make a Brussels sprout something. Especially if they sit, just like cabbage overnight in a little vinegar base or something, they're gonna kind of break down and be a little more pliable. It's still crunchy, still crunchy.
As you're building your salads, I wanna talk a little bit about the kale and the Brussels sprouts we just added. Those are gonna be something, you know, they're green and their salad's gonna be nice and colorful. The different colors, or you might have heard this before, eat like the rainbow. Chef said it earlier. Have you guys heard that before? So when we say eat like the rainbow, not only does it make it pleasing to our eyes, it makes it more inviting, but there's actually a reason nutritionally we say to do that, is because it gives us different nutrients. The different colors of the vegetables, the pomegranate seeds, they all have different nutrients. So the kale and the Brussels sprouts are gonna give us not only fiber that we've talked about a little bit when we talked about heart health earlier today, but it has vitamin A, vitamin C, and some different vitamins and minerals as well. And the pomegranate seeds as well, they also have some vitamin A, vitamin C, and some antioxidants, which is really important for heart health. Or if anyone is on a, cancer fighting journey, that's a great way to add some antioxidants to your recipes.
So we're pretty full.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest, let's take our vinaigrette. And again, it's stayed fairly emulsified, but let's give it another shake. Make sure that we're not getting this oil. All right. Now, again, like I said, you're not going to need all of this.
Unless you want it.
Unless you want it.
Up to you.
So I'm going to pour in about half. Stir it up a little bit.
Mason jar salads was really popular last year. Has anyone
Yeah.
seen those before or done them before? If you have anything, especially, I don't know if any of you guys are working, but if you're trying to make your salad in preparation for the next day, Mason jar salads are a great way to do that because you can layer all your things, you can have your vinaigrette on the bottom and put your cucumbers or the things that you don't want to get too soggy on top, and then when you're ready to eat it the next day, you just shake it up.
That's great advice. Yeah, so let's shake, and it's,
Shaken, not stirred.
Shaken, not stirred.
This is free.
That's a whole different food group.
Whoops. Not for the food's medicine, well, unless.
That's right, depends on the day.
All right, so now the fun part, you get to eat.
Ah.
We're gonna continue talking a little bit. Now, if you do have some questions, please feel free to ask anything.
I have a question. Is there any level of saturated fat that's okay for heart patients?
Yeah, so saturated fat, we wanna keep to a minimum. You know, total fat is reduced, but saturated fat is something we want to reduce for heart health as well. We say less than 10% of your fat or your daily calories from fat should be saturated. You know, if you could keep it to 0, that'd be great, but that's probably not possible. So less than 10% of their daily calories.
But things like nuts, they have saturated fat, does that count or is
That
that
helps,
healthy?
it counts, but it is, you know, it does have healthy fats as well. So there's a lot of components, food components, that have both healthy fats and unhealthy fats. And we talked a little bit about saturated fats. That's one of the fats that we would consider unhealthy. We don't wanna have too many saturated fats in our diet, but a lot of things do have healthy fats as well. So the polyunsaturated, monounsaturated fats, those are healthier fats. So most likely your nuts are gonna have a portion of both, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Portion size is gonna come in key when you're doing things like nuts. You know, if we just snack on nuts all day, that fat and saturated fat adds up quickly.
There are a lot of benefits to not
Always
eating.
good less.
Absolutely.
Less acid.
Anybody taste the freaky yet?
Yeah.
I
Taste
love
that
the
in there?
freaky.
It's
I
good
love
texture.
it, yeah.
And again, so it was 1/5 the size, so it really blows up a lot, but there's still a lot there. There's a lot of texture to it.
I mean, I can see that the freekeh would be good with the vinaigrette. That's kind of like a farro salad, is
Yeah,
it?
you could do
I
Absolutely.
like that.
And you could serve it warm. You can make a porridge out of it,
Oh.
just like you would with oatmeal. that sort of thing.
It's lovely.
Say again the proportion of oil and acid.
It's one bit of acid to 4 portions of oil. Now again, this is a pretty tart vinaigrette, but if you wanted it a little bit more balanced, maybe just a little bit of honey, something like that.
Splash of sugar.
Splash of sugar.
And I know Chef mentioned this earlier, but these salads here have chicken, which is a lean protein. So we wanna make sure we're having some type of protein with our meals to help support your bones and your muscles and whatnot. But if you don't typically eat meat, or you wanna try to eat less meat, which is fine, you don't have to. But there are ways you can do that with tofu, or like Chef said, chickpeas to get some protein in your diets.
You can even
Nicola
fry
can speak
your-
to that.
You can even fry your chickpeas to give your salad a little more crunch, a little substance to it.
Yeah.
I like to bake one.
Yeah, air bake.
Yep.
You
Air
bake,
fryers are
you bake
popular.
yours?
Yes, yep.
Huh.
Not always, but sometimes.
So something when you're making a dish, and I know a lot of us are recipe oriented, so you go with it. But something when, you know, if my wife says, here, we've gotta burn this, this is getting old in the refrigerator, so let's burn it. I was fortunate enough to do some study at the Culinary Institute of America, and one of the master chefs there told me, whenever you're creating a dish, he always thinks of peanut butter and jelly on a Ritz cracker. Yeah, so the important thing to think about there is the savory you know, that you get with the peanut butter, the creaminess that you get with that, the tartness and the sweetness that come with the jelly, the kind of saltiness that comes with the cracker, but also the crunch.
Mhm.
So, you know, if you sort of have all of that covered, again, using my wife in this example, she makes soup a lot. And at the end, because I always say the last 5 minutes is amazing because you adjust it. So she'll want me to adjust it. So I always taste it and it's like, okay, salt's good, you know, not too much, not too little. But acid is always the thing that is generally missing. You know, just a tablespoon of sherry vinegar into a pot of soup just changes the whole thing. Just all the flavors start blossoming.
I read an article one time that said, at the end, at the, you know, at the very end, when you almost didn't have to taste, it's almost always gonna need a little more salt,
Yes,
a little more,
always.
like a lemon, a squeeze of lemon. So
And
it's that
that's
same
exactly true,
thing.
yeah. You can really screw up a dish by over-salting it.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, always make sure if you're using stock, whether it's, you know, salt-free or reduced salt, or it has, because I made that mistake too, thinking that I was using salt-free, and, oh, by the way, honey, I switched to have a little bit of salt.
It can be really hard to find salt-free broth these
Yeah,
days.
it is. And have you noticed how expensive it's gotten?
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
unbelievable.
Trying to make it at
Just in the
home.
last year, yeah.
Would you do anything to tofu to put in the salad? You cook
Well,
it
you
or-
can, yeah, because tofu is a chameleon, you know, it's gonna take on whatever flavors you put with it. If
So
you
it's
don't really
great with
wanna-
dressing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If you don't really wanna fry it, what I usually do is like cube it up, you know, either some sort of soy marinade or in a little bit of oil, and throw it on a sheet tray, put it in an oven. And that way, you know, kind of bakes into it, and you don't have to get stoked up all messy.
Ooh, good catch. Sorry, I was jumping a little far for me to get to, but I was trying.
So what do you think of the salad?
Delicious.
It really is.
And something great about Brussels sprouts too, and kale, if you're using it, it doesn't break down as quickly. So you can dress it a little bit early and it's gonna be fine.
We have a few key components of the salad that are providing us with fiber. We talked about fiber a little, couple different times throughout here. What pieces of the salad do you think are providing fiber?
The freaka,
Paprika, yep.
Brussels
Brussels
sprouts.
sprouts.
Yep.
Kale.
The kale, the tomatoes, yep.
Probably
And the
seeds
pomegranate
that
seeds.
we're
A
talking
Yeah.
lot
about.
of that is.
Yeah.
Does anyone know how much fiber we should be having in a day?
A lot.
A lot, yeah. A lot more than what we are most likely getting. Most Americans don't get nearly as much fiber as they need. Most of us in this room are women. Women need 25 grams of fiber a day.
Wow.
So, you know, by adding something like this simple salad, you know, once a day, you're getting quite a bit of your fiber in. And men need 38 grams for the men that are in.
Wow.
How much
Did not
fiber
know
are you
that.
getting from
Yeah.
this?
Let me see, I don't know if it knows exact, oh, it does probably, 8 grams in this salad.
Wow.
For
So
a
halfway
serving,
there.
for a serving. We might not be having a full serving right
That's
here.
not full
Yeah.
serving.
Absolutely.
What about, this is sort of off the salad, but when the recipe calls for salted butter or unsalted butter, I know the theory is then you can salt to taste and all that, but
Mhm.
how much salt does salted butter really add?
Not much. Yeah.
I think it's like a quarter of a teaspoon. I was just learning about that not that long ago. I can't tell you exactly, but, you know, like you said, you can salt to taste. I prefer to buy unsalted and I can salt to taste. That way I know I'm controlling the salt intake. I think salted butter is probably important for baking or those that are, you know,
Yeah.
making, baking is really the
Yeah.
baking process. So, you know, if cooking, you don't really need to buy salted butter.
I would say that any kitchen that you went into, commercial kitchen,
Uses
it's gonna be
unsalted.
unsalted. And if you can, buy it on sale, like Irish butter, like
Oh,
Kerry butter.
love
So
Irish
much
butter.
worth it.
Mhm.
This, you know, American butter has a lot of water whipped into it, so, you won't find that with Irish butter. I am Irish, so.
Your vote's
Yeah.
I was gonna say Jersey.
No, Pennsylvania though.
Pennsylvania?
Philadelphia, yeah. Originally born, but I grew up in Florida.
I just have a
Yeah.
quick question about the chickpeas. You say that you fry chickpeas by putting them in the air fryer. Do you put anything on them?
So it depends on what I'm gonna do with them. Normally for me, I just like a little lemon pepper. I love lemon pepper in general. I put it in a lot of dishes at home. And normally what I'll do is I'll take them out of the air fryer, I'll put them, because they're gonna emit a little bit of fat, so they're gonna have a natural oil kind of with them anyway. So I just take them out of the air fryer, put them in a bowl, and just toss them in a little lemon pepper. Or you could do, like a taco seasoning, if you wanted like a Tex-Mex style. It just depends on what you're doing with it.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, it's not required. There's definitely some benefit to having a little bit of oil. If you use like a spray oil, I think that's a great way to control how much you're putting on there.
Yes.
So that's what I do from time to time, or if I'm marinating my chicken, I just will have the marinade, that's, the oil base, so. A lot of different things, but you don't have to. I do a lot of things in the air fryer without any oil, and it still turns out pretty crispy.
I love my air fryer.
Here's a squirrel moment about
I don't have.
chickpeas. It's called aquafina, we believe
Oh,
it's
yeah.
what
Yeah.
actually the chickpeas are in. And we talked about this the last time we were in here, I know a few of you were here last time. But you can make, it's a substitute for making an egg white omelet. It's more of a vegan omelet, it'll actually cook. So next time, out of your chickpeas, stay with the liquid, and then salt up, yeah.
You could also.
So how do you make
pinto
your
food
omelet?
as well.
Because I've seen it turned into meringue,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Same
I've never
way,
seen it
just
turned.
cook it just like you would egg white.
You put anything else in it?
Yeah, well, obviously salted and
Little
everything, but it
seasoning.
But what
doesn't
does
need
it
anything
taste
else.
like?
It's very neutral, like an egg white, it
Okay.
doesn't have much flavor.
Okay.
Good comparison.
Oh,
Pinto beans, similar.
Yeah.
To that as well.
really? Oh, wow.
Going back to the chickpeas.
Struck a nerve with chicken.
If you're like air fryer or anything like that, with chickpeas or any other type of protein, is it better to season before or after? Is there a difference? Or
It's up to you, it's a personal preference. I always am a firm believer of seasoning before you cook, but it's very minimal, because again, from the over salted standpoint, you don't wanna over season it, and then it comes out and you season it again, because, oh, that doesn't look right, or I don't like the way that tastes, and now all of a sudden you add a little more to it at the end, and you're kinda, either over seasoned, but I'd like to do it both, depends on what I'm cooking. Some things I just season from the beginning and never touch it again, especially if it's going into something. Then you have other flavors that are gonna collaborate with that, kind of leave you in a soup or stew or something. You really wanna taste that towards the end. You just kind of season to your taste. I mean, I don't like a lot of salt. Everything that I cook with already has sodium in it, onion powder, garlic powder, stuff like that. So I don't really use a lot of salt in my dishes. But it just depends on what you like. I love lemon pepper, like I said. I mean, it goes with everything.
Yeah,
It's a
for the
good
most
base.
part, I find that I generally season, it changes it. You can't catch up at the very end, it's got to, it's just like cooking with the rice with just a little bit in the pot before you cook it. It tastes differently than if you add it at the end. But to Chef's point, yeah, there are times that you don't really have to do that. The one exception is like if you're cooking roast. It's hard to over salt, because a lot of that, when the fat starts, coming out, it's gonna go out. Steaks too, if I'm doing it in the pan. Oh, come on, I know we got.
So it just
more
depends on the protein
questions.
and how you're cooking it.
This is off target a bit, but what do you think of, from a dietitian's perspective, or you guys too, nutritional yeast?
Oh, I use it quite often. It's a great source of protein. I've been adding it to a lot of my dishes
Yeah.
in substitute of, I still do eat meat, but especially if you're doing something more plant-based, it's a great way to add protein that's
Yeah.
not.
It tastes kind of cheesy.
Meat.
Yeah, it
So
does.
I was
Yep.
gonna say that I actually have a lot of vegetarian and vegan friends that use it to put it over their pasta dishes, like in place of Parmesan.
Yeah.
They'll put a little garlic in with it to kind of give it a little more robust
Yep.
flavor, and then sprinkle that in as well as their
Okay.
topping.
Absolutely.
And so no problems with heart issues or
That I know of,
anything that you
no.
know of? Okay.
Yeah.
It's also got a lot of B12 in it,
Yeah.
so that's good.
I reference over to Nicola a lot because she is our vegan
We
dietitian.
do have some more dietitians.
So I don't know anything about that. How much do you use? I mean, do you be cautious or you really?
With
Generally,
general
like
yeast
with the yeast,
specifically,
yeah.
Salt,
Yeah.
how much?
Well,
Yeah,
I
I
think you
usually
should
do small
taste.
portions.
Yeah.
Do a little bit taste,
I think that's.
see if it's fine, if not, a little pinch
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of learning your flavor
No,
profile?
no,
Does it
it's
have
But
to
definitely
you're gonna
preference,
taste-
you're gonna
You're
taste
gonna,
it.
it's gonna be a
Yeah.
different flavor,
Yeah.
higher
It's
quantity.
not
Yeah.
refrigerated,
Oh,
but I
okay.
keep it in a
Yeah.
dark jar. Okay, is that correct? You
My
keep it
jar-
in,
My jar is it's see-through, but I do keep it in a
Really?
cupboard, so.
because I've always heard you keep it in a dark jar because
Yeah.
it's sensitive to
It's a lot
light.
better.
What about the,
Yeah, well.
what do you think about yeast? Do you keep it in a dark jar? Because I've always kept it dark and
The
not exposed to
nutritional
light.
yeast?
Yeah.
I just keep it in my like pantry.
Oh,
in a
But yeah,
bag.
mine, the jar comes in as
Yeah.
see-through for mine.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that, but I'm sure it can't hurt.
I've just read that, so
Yeah.
But
I
you-
keep it in
You wanna
there.
keep the moisture down in it as well,
Right.
so don't leave it open for
Right.
too long.
Right.
Especially if you've got a lot of stuff going
Right.
like on the stove, you don't want any steam to get in there, cause it'll pretty much ruin it pretty quickly,
How
especially
long
if you
does-
seal it.
How long does it last? Oh, a long time.
Lasts a while.
If you keep it right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's years, I think on
Yeah.
open jars, I think it's up to 3 years. or
Oh my
something.
gosh, okay.
I've seen it sprinkled on popcorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good on
Yeah.
popcorn.
Oh, that
I
sounds
love it
good.
on popcorn.
That's a great way to add it.
Yeah, because it's cheesy.
Okay.
I mean, be careful.
There's
No, you have to learn your
Saturated fat, yeah, it's healthy.
profile, your
Cheese
taste
Cheese,
profile.
great.
And you
Yeah,
put
I
a
mean,
little bit in- I mean, I like a lot.
typically try to choose like
But,
Swiss or
yeah.
provolone, I can't speak to the exact amount of saturated fat,
Well,
you were shaking your
I
head,
guess
Taylor,
it-
do you
I
have-
would say Carter
I guess it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
It's
Parmesan.
really
Softer
nutritional.
cheese has a higher amount of fat in it.
Swiss,
Yeah.
but
Cheddar,
it also has
Asiago.
cheddar, yeah.
I'll try it.
very
And,
high
and you need
vitamin.
less
I
of
think
it
she
to
said
get
12.
the
Right,
same
yeah,
meat
that's-
flavor.
I feel like they have more flavors for that.
Mhm.
So harder cheeses.
Yeah.
Like even the vegan cheeses seem to have a ton of saturated
Yeah, because
fat.
they're
Ooh,
normally
I don't
like
like
coconut
those.
oil based.
Oh,
Yeah.
coconut oil is bad, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
For
not
me-
bad. Everything's good in moderation. You can't
Yeah.
be like, oh, this is bad, this is good.
Right.
Everything's good in moderation. Yeah, I don't use a lot of the like vegan cheese or like fake meat stuff.
Yeah, I
Very
do.
limited on that because it is not the healthiest. But yeah.
Same thing with a lot of gluten-free products,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, they're having to add a lot of stuff to make it taste like bread.
Yeah.
I have celiac disease, so, but I have to be careful, yeah.
But Nicola made a good comment, is that, everything in moderation, even when we're talking about salt and reducing salt intake, it's not the enemy, we still can have some salt in our diet, so everything in moderation. But I think like Chef said earlier, if there is a lot of foods that have salt already in them, so that's where, minimizing table salt is really one great thing you can do to reduce your salt intake because of the sodium that's in your foods. But you don't have to cut it out completely, just, watch overall portions.
There's a lot of salt-free products, even more coming on, because we don't add any salt to any of the patient menus that go up. Because we're doing, about 800 meals a day. If it already has it in there, we're okay with it. But if it's like chicken breast, we'll use a multi-spice seasoning that doesn't have it. And there's a lot of options. We just picked up a brand, and there's about 6 different options on there. One's like a blackening spice. So you can find, different, it's like, I remember my dad, he had a salt-free thing because he had a heart condition at the time. It's come a long way since then. But there are other alternatives besides just salt. But you never want to miss an opportunity to add flavor, and it doesn't necessarily have to be salt.
Do you mind recommending brand names for a couple of things for me?
If I
So,
can.
so I'm not wasting my. First of all, a knife. What is a good knife to get? If you know you're getting
This is a Japanese knife, and it's
Yeah.
made by a company named Global, which are good. The tangs are, it's all one piece. And they're really kind of light, but German steel, Henkel, anything really that is in that vein, I think you're okay. Mustang is another one. The Japanese have really come to the forefront lately. Their knife making skills go back, centuries, actually millennia. And I think their knives are a little sharper, even though the blades are a little bit softer. The whole technique is a little bit different. On a Global knife, the point is like this. On a German knife, it's more like this. So they're a little harder to sharpen.
The what, the
Yeah.
Global?
Global.
It's
Yeah,
harder to
that's
sharpen.
why, my fillet knife that I had is a Henkel. And I think it was like $80. And now there's different grades, you know, the ones you see in Target are not the ones to buy. You know, they'll just tell you, it'll say Henkel's on there, but it's not. It's usually stamped steel, and it's not the same. So, I would, you know, you don't have to go to Williams and Sonoma. And again, I hate to keep pushing Amazon, but you can buy and they go on sale. But look for good quality. And, you know, for a chef night, you're gonna pay over $100 for a good one, but it'll last the rest of your life.
And the other thing is I recently discovered in my cupboard something I bought and hadn't used for a couple of months, but anyway, it's a pepper blend. I think it's white and black pepper from looking at it, and it was just head over heels better than I get in the store. But,
Yeah.
so, but I don't know, it doesn't have any brand name on it. I don't know what to, I'd like to keep
I'm not
using
sure either.
it.
I usually grind my own pepper at home.
Oh, do you?
You know, so I buy, and I go to the Gap Farmers Market and get it. As I'm sure everybody's aware, spices have just gone through the
Yeah.
roof too. So, you know, if you live in the area, go to the Gap. You know, because they come in little bags, but you know, they're so much cheaper. So much cheaper.
And you can buy a spice grinder off Amazon.
That's where I get mine from. I swear my last name is
Hi, yes, this has been wonderful, and I just want to say first of all that, you know, I have friends who talk about they eat a salad every day, and I'm like, I wish I could, you know, but it gets boring. For me, it's always just been lettuce, tomato, cucumber.
Yeah.
Maybe corn if I got, you know, really crispy or something. But so this is wonderful, because I hate Brussels sprouts. I thought I hated them. But I love the salad, you know, and I loved everything about it. I want to go buy the ingredients, and so I had a couple of quick questions. And one is, when you talked about, like you talked about helping us with brands, if you don't mind, you know how you mentioned spices that you use in alternative of salt, and I just wonder what you all might use like regularly in your kitchen to like season chicken or whatever, vegetables. Are there a couple, like you mentioned some blackening season, maybe lemon pepper?
Yeah, I mean, those are two, lemon pepper does have a lot of salt in it.
Oh.
So does blackening.
Oh.
And I generally use like Paul Prudhomme, because his seafood magic is still the, you know, every time I cook salmon, I put that on. But not too much.
Is it better than Tony Satchery's?
It is.
What is
And I
it?
love Tony Satchery's.
I've never tried that one.
What
It
was it you just?
Chef Pardon.
Yeah,
Chef
Paul Prudhomme.
Pardon.
Yeah, they come in a
I'll
little
try it.
round.
This is really
I
good.
still haven't found anything better. And actually, I use it on vegetables too. It's great to just, you know, you roast vegetables like I'm sick of vegetables. But I'll tell you, with a little olive oil, just a tiny bit of that sprinkled on asparagus, and throw it in and roast it. It's unbelievable. I worked at a catering company back 15, 20 years ago. 20 years ago. And that was like our secret ingredient on our vegetables.
Hello.
There you go. I'm not there anymore.
But McCormick's is a pretty common name in
Yeah.
most supermarkets. They make a pretty wide variety of salt-free blends as well. It just really depends on what you're looking for. I love Italian seasoning. I put it just on about everything. I just like the way it all blends together. You can make your own as well. If you buy all the right spices and mix them all together, you can have your own Italian seasoning.
I had one more, I just thought about the other thing I wanted to ask you, thank you for all that. When you buy spice at the farmer's market, you know, they come in those little containers, plastic containers.
Yeah.
And one day, I went through my whole cabinet, I must have thrown away 70
Yeah.
of them, cause they were from like 10 years
2011.
ago, right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm guilty of that too.
I know, so I was wondering, what's the best thing to do with those? Cause, you know, in a bottle, I think they might last longer.
They will, and that's what my wife does.
Really?
Because
She
we buy
bottles
them
them?
and she has them in bottles and she puts them in
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's very good.
there. You probably buy those on Amazon.
Yeah.
And if you are in the grocery store,
Uh-huh.
McCormick is probably the most respected name. But if you go to the Latin section and you buy Badia,
Oh, yeah.
the price, bay leaves, it's about a quarter.
B-A-D-I-A.
Spell it again.
B-A-D-I-A.
And as you're experimenting with your salads, we probably mentioned this too, I mean, it's not, you know, maybe easy to find the freeka in the grocery store, but you can substitute with quinoa, you can use brown rice, you can use a lot of different types of grains and see what you like, and maybe some that are easier for you to cook, and that's okay too. Or you can do a combination, you could do a little freekeh with your brown rice if you're, you don't want that strong flavor, that's okay too.
And just to follow up on your point too, and fresh herbs. Again, talk about the Cat Farmers Market, they cost nothing there, but, I have a rosemary bush, I have a thyme bush.
I even have
that.
those.
All year long.
Yeah.
Just a
So-
quick
I was also gonna say Mrs. Dash.
Yeah.
Mrs. Dash, she
Yeah.
has a common salt-free, I think they have a Cajun season, they
Oh, they
have
have all
a lemon
different
pepper, they
flavors.
have
They're all
garlic
flavors.
herb. Yeah, so Mrs. Dash is an easy one to find too.
Speaking of preserving, my daughter-in-law grows garlic, fresh garlic. I mean, just beautifully garlic.
Yeah.
So how, and I love garlic. So how do you preserve,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
gotta be
those
really
bulbs
careful with garlic.
of garlic?
Because, anything in the ground that you're trying to preserve, you have a chance of botulism with that.
Ah,
So
okay.
that's the biggest thing about that. Beets aren't so much of a problem because you're taking everything off before
Right.
you do that. And you're also, cooking it generally before that. But garlic, I'd just be really careful with that.
Right, so then, cause I typically, when I get it, I typically use it,
Yeah.
just
But
cut
if
it
you
off
grind
and
it up-
actually roast it.
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
roast
in
is
the
gonna
oven
preserve it.
is just
Right.
And then it
good.
becomes, especially with oil, then it's more like garlic confit.
So I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
So if you actually take it fresh and then roast it off and cook it, and then you can store it in the olive oil and then store it in your refrigerator. So it'll hold longer, but again, when
Just
it
for sure.
turns, you will know it.
Yeah.
Cause I
And
can
it'll give
use
a very
garlic every
strong,
day.
tangy
And the
smell.
thing about botulism, you can't cook it out.
Right.
It's a toxin.
That's why you cook it ahead.
Yeah.
But even so, I wouldn't do a large quantity of it. I would probably do just a couple of cloves at a time.
Right, okay.
And you can. Yeah. Please.
Emma, we can take our
I'm not gonna tell you where I'm
Does it start with A?
No, I just wanted to mention, if you're gonna buy the farmer's market spices, we take a red pen and put the date that we bought it on
Yeah.
there, so we don't have 4-year-old
Yeah.
cardamom or something.
Because it does fade over time, the
Yeah.
date.
Oh, I've got some 10-year-old curry powder.
Oh,
It's still good. It's still good.
Any
Goes
other
in the
questions?
compost.
Final thoughts? Thank you.
Great.
So please feel free to continue with you.
So is this a routine class? Do you do this periodically
Not
throughout the
yet.
year?
Not yet, we'd like to do them more often though, especially.
I think it's a good idea.
Any feedback you can give to
I
Beth
think,
or.
I think this is the best class I've been through
Yeah.
here. It's been informative,
Thank you.
delicious.
This is actually the,
You fed us?
So Morrison has this for our region. How many hospitals do we have?
24.
24. So this is for us to use. We're the first one to use it. But we sort of have it in our mind to try and do this quarterly at least with this whole teaching kitchen concept.
Good.
And there are other offerings, where you could actually demonstrate, how to cut chicken, or how to slice your vegetables, or, how to cut your herbs down and stuff like that. So there's a lot of concepts that go with this teaching kitchen,
Yeah.
that we could look at
And then
utilizing.
take a picture of it.
Beth and I were talking about this, I don't know, back in October, November.
Yes, in the fall.
Yeah.
So we're glad you guys are our pilot program.
Yeah.
We're so glad that you could be part of this, and we do want to make it a regular class
Good.
offering.
I'll definitely come back.
Thank you, that was awesome.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you guys.
Thank you.
They're singing all the time. Egos, personality, and I heard.
Right now?
Personality.
Oh, wow.
And they're like washing and stuff.
Yes, we'll take care of that.
Both are, and it's intense. Keep everybody in shape.
Once I
From
get
what
it
Orwell
organized.
did, I read one of his books.
Well,
I've got Weren't you talking to somebody about yoga? She was talking about, but this yoga is functional. Okay, all right, okay, so she's really working on functional.
I will have.
And there are lots of podcasts about it. And I really like to find out whether the silver speakers class I can go to. This class is from 8 o'clock, 8:30.
Can you get under the rug or just pick it up? Stop.
yeah.